going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Sonic Sync podcast. Today, I'm with my man, Harshit. Thank you so much for being on the show, brother.
Yeah, no, very excited to chat with you and share some of my thoughts, Adam.
Yeah, so why don't you kind of kick us off? Just let us know a little bit about yourself, and we'll get started and go from there.
Yeah. Hey, folks, glad to have this opportunity talking with Adam on this podcast and talking everything from cybersecurity to technology evolution. My name is Harshit Shah. Currently, I am Chief Technology Officer at Kairos Health. I am based out of Seattle and have worked in industry for over 25 years, serving in a similar capacity at other healthcare companies, as well as spending my time in big tech companies like Microsoft and Amazon.
Awesome. So, from your perspective, like, what do you see being the biggest risks companies are facing when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yeah, man, this is the time. I think just taking a step back, what keeps me up at the night in my role when I think about the biggest risk or the challenges in the cybersecurity is a multifold things. First and foremost, the growth of data when we look across the industry, and especially in the healthcare, which I am part of, is growing exponentially. So when you think about the proliferation of data, not only from the sources of the data, access to the data, and integration between the different systems, creates a lot of risk where inherently the data leakage or compromise can lead to unintended consequences. That's the first and foremost risk. Second part of it is uh, compute continue to get cheaper and cheaper. So when you think about it in the proliferation of the patterns for any DOS attacks or bot attacks is becoming very cheaper for a ROG entity. And at that point of time, like how are you protecting your endpoints? How are you thinking from security first mindset when you build your product, services, SaaS platform is going to be very, very important. And last but not least, there is also the consumerization of the technology that is happening. So, what might be okay to do on your personal device, in your personal capacity, whether it is social networking, applications, or something else, might not be the right thing to do for the enterprise setting. So, hey, you know what? You are on airport and connected to an open Wi-Fi and inherently having a man in the middle attack to snoof the company proprietary data, right? So those are the threats which are not new, but the sophistication, the speed, the scale that is happening for all of those attacks right now is at unprecedented level.
I see. So, from your perspective, let's say somebody wants to get into the world of security, learn what you know today. What's the proper? I guess is there like, do you have like a go-to resource? What keeps you up to date so that you stay sharp, so that you're able to do your job right? Like, how can we download what's in here to know? Like if we were to be listening to this podcast, to kind of have a takeaway from it.
Yeah. So, the learning is a continuous activity, right?
Yeah.
And I think that applies to all of us. What I have found most useful is not having one way of learning, right? If I draw analogy to a physical activity, you need well-rounded muscle training. Similarly, learning more about cybersecurity, I think couple of resources that I leverage on, and I would love to learn from other on what channels or the resources work for them. First and foremost, I think some of the industry standard publications from NIST to what CCA kind of sends it out, right? All of these and compliance standards which continue to evolve, whether it is high trust, whether it is SOC 2 Type 2, whether it is ISO 27001. These are a fantastic set of framework to wrap your mind around what are all the different aspects of the security that matters for your product or services or the organization. So that's a one way to learn. Second way to learn, and most importantly, is by doing. So as we go through a different maturity stage in our company or in our organization, there are a lot of interesting set of tools and technology, whether it is data encryption, whether it is policy as a code, whether it is endpoint protection, whether it is DLP. So just encouraging the team to do the POC, learning what features, capability these solutions have, and how does it apply to your workload is other way that I get to learn from my team for the problems that we have. And the third thing is learning from the industry leaders. I am fortunate to have been invited and have been participating in many of the tech events as well. And when I get to have those one-on-one or a group discussion with some of the thought leaders in the industry, you are able to pick up that brain that say, hey, you know what? They are in a fintech, they solve the problem in a certain way. Because if you take the industry out, the patterns of the controls that needs to be put in place are very consistent and similar across the board.
I see. Okay. And so when it comes to like talk to me about like futuristic technologies, I mean, not so futuristic today, but like AI, things that are, coming in at a fast rate of speed in terms
Yeah.
of like, taking over the industry. How
Yeah.
how do you see that evolving the world that we work in today?
Yeah. So such a fascinating time, right? Like every decade has an inflection point for some part of technology, right? If early 2000s, it was the evolution of smartphone, or the last year, the evolution of several other technology, whether it is serverless, whether it is crypto. The same last 3 years, the advent of Gen AI and the rapid consumerization of the AI-based services is fascinating. So again, disclaimer: these are my point of view. I do not represent an organization, but I am very bullish on the applicability and the usefulness for technology like Gen AI. It comes with own caveats. What I mean by that is for every company, more so, data becomes very important competitive asset. And most of the company right now who are staying on a sideline of jumping into Gen AI bandwagon, though they have fantastic data assets, are the one who are struggling to have the right governance on their data, right? To not take advantage of the new technology. So
Hmm.
what I'm trying to say, where uh, there are challenges for sure, but those challenges can be systematically addressed if the right policies and data governance and the contracts are put in place. As an example, uh, the trusted AI consortium or having data exchange so it is not being used for any training of the foundational model is very, very important. We have built certain capabilities within our product at Kairos Health to provide guided experience for our members. We are internally using for productivity across our work suite of services. But all of those are under BAA. All of those are vetted through our AI steering committee. So we are closely looking at it, but we are not preventing it, right? So doing the right use is very important. This is more on the AI space, and more, I do believe that chasm has been breached from early adopter to going the mainstream. And if anything, the rate of adoption and growth is gonna exponentially grow going forward. So it will be very important for organization to have a policy, have a strategy for their AI forward workload, and then start building towards that data governance which will play a critical role in the differentiated experience. Second part of your question was other industries like IoT. Now I spent few years leading the IoT team back in AWS, and that was an exciting period. It brings another set of challenges, right? Like the data quality coming from sensors are high volume, low quality, right? There is a lossiness in that data. But the security threat that brings is now you have millions of endpoints which can potentially become your source of DDoS attack. So having the wrong software update, what we saw with CrowdStrike kind of incident
Yeah.
a couple of months back, where say, hey, suddenly a strong wrong software or config push across the board can paralyze the entire ecosystem. Similarly, all these devices, whether your smart device on your handheld or whether your watch or your sleep ring, all of these devices on a personal side or industrial IoT can become source of attack. And any technology or any solution working in those domains should be thinking about how to protect against that.
So when it comes to maintaining cybersecurity practices with also you talked about a little bit of regulations and things like that, and also balancing out these new technologies, what
Yeah.
approach do you take to make sure you balancing out user convenience, the right regulations? It seems that you just so many tools you have to like, yeah, get educated on and be an expert in. So like, what's your process to making sure you got all your ends covered?
Yeah. Uh, that's the challenging and fun part of the job, right?
Yeah.
And I think the one of the early learning in my professional career, having spent time at Microsoft, where security should not be an afterthought, right? So trustworthy computing was an initiative that Microsoft pioneered in the industry, and to date, like continue to hold the bar over there. And same tenants or the principle applies. So when we put it out, the core engineering tenants for Kairos Health, security compliance trumps uh, any feature or functionality within the product, right? I keep repeating in every opportunity that, especially in the healthcare, it takes us weeks and months and sometimes years to build the trust with an user. And it can be one single incident, security incident, that can erode that trust. So everything that we do, we have security first mindset. How we do it is a combination of being very structured, whether it is our engineering design reviews, whether it is around internal threat modeling for our features, whether it is doing the pen testing before those feature goes out, or whether it is continuous monitoring for our production system through our SOC to make sure that we are being very proactive on detection, monitoring, detections, and prevention rather than being reactive over there. At the same time, to make this happen, you need to have the right set of subject matter experts, and you also need right set of skill. So those are the things that we continue to evaluate. That as part of our hiring decisions, do we have the subject matter expert, and as part of uh, our roadmap, are we deploying the right tool? Whether it is SaaS test for our code repository, whether it is endpoint protection for our devices, whether it is doing the continuous endpoint protection using web application firewall in our production system.
I love it. I love it, Harshit. This has been super great. So my final question for you before we wrap up here. When it comes to I want to go back to people who might be listening to this.
Yeah,
If, any aspiring people who want to get into the chief role, or, the CTO role, the CIO role, the CISO role,
yeah,
what advice would you give them on how to get themselves prepared to be a valuable candidate for a role like that?
yeah. Uh, See, there are so many different ways to go about doing it. There are,
Mm,
first and foremost, every individual's career journey will be different,
mm.
right? Somebody says that they had figured it out or they had exact idea on how it is going to pan out for them. Probably they are not truthful, right? So the meta point being that anybody listening, I would suggest that, hey, charter your own path. Do take input from multiple sources, but you are unique and your path will be unique, equally unique as well. Some of the things that have worked for me, if it worked for somebody else, first and foremost, have a growth mindset. What I mean by that is a continuous learning is very, very important as you grow in your professional career. I did not have exposure to different areas when I started my professional career. But hey, when I got opportunity to work on IoT, when I got opportunity to work on MLAI, when I got opportunity to work in a healthcare, though it was uncomfortable to start with, because I did not have a previous background or a domain expertise, I jumped in because, hey, it was going to push me in a way and provide me a new set of learning. Similarly, several of the learning that comes from the industry, right? We talked about attending certain events. This podcast is an example. Your podcast series has been a source for me to learn. And similarly, I hope our discussion will be useful for somebody else as well. But continuous learning from the industry and subject matter experts will help form a certain baseline for you that you can apply in your current role or the future role. The second part of it is always tie back to the business context and the customers, right? Like many of the time early in the career, which is hard to connect those dots. But if you're asking somebody growing in a leadership role or a C-suite role, it is going to be very important that while you have a subject matter expert in your domain, how much you know outside of your domain to be a multiplier, whether it is sales, whether it is product, whether it is legal, whether it is compliance. And those are the things are valued a lot more as you grow in your career, rather than say, hey, are you an expert in a particular framework or a programming language?
I see. I see. So, Harshit, I appreciate you a ton for all your advice and your insight. Where can people find you online if they want to look you up?
Yeah, I am very active on the LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile, and we can share as part of the description for this podcast. That will be the best way to reach out to me. Alternatively, people can reach out via my personal email, which is shah.hk@gmail.com. And we'll happy to connect in any way, which way I can help out. If you have thoughts on how we can partner, would love to learn as well.
I appreciate it, Harshit. And for everybody that's watching, if you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. All right. Peace.
Bye.